Hey there. I hope you're enjoying these stories as much as I'm enjoying getting these stories to you. And if you are, please subscribe. It allows you to know when a new story's out and allows me to get more subscribers. So please subscribe. Also share. Share this with your friends. Share it on media. Just a post. Well, that'd be great. Please subscribe. Please share.
The memory creeps in like damp rot, slow and inevitable, every time I smell rain or hear a floorboard groan. I was 16, cocky with the freedom of my first weekend alone. Mom and Dad had driven off to some cousin's wedding 3 towns over, leaving me with a fridge full of leftovers, a list of chores I'd never touch, and the house, a creaky 2-story relic that always felt too big for the 3 of us. It was April, the air thick with spring storms, and by Saturday night I was sprawled on the couch, half watching a slasher flick, the TV's glow flickering against the dark windows. That's when it started. The rain had been drumming the roof for hours, a steady thrum that dulled my senses. I barely noticed the first sound, a faint tap, 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 like someone rapping a knuckle on glass. I muted the TV, ears straining. It was coming from the kitchen. My stomach twisted, but I told myself it was nothing, a branch maybe, scraping the window in the wind. I shuffled in, barefoot, the linoleum cold against my soles. The room was empty, the back door locked tight, the window above the sink streaked with rain. No branch, no nothing. I laughed it off, nerves buzzing, and headed back to the couch. But the tapping didn't stop. It followed me, sharper now, insistent, like it was testing me. Tap, tap, tap. I turned off the TV completely, plunging the house into silence except for the rain and that damn tapping sound. It was coming from upstairs now, from my parents' room. My mouth went dry. I grabbed the fireplace poker, brass, heavy, the closest thing to a weapon I could think of, and crept up the stairs, each step groaning under my weight. The air felt wrong up there, heavier, like it was pressing down on me. The hallway stretched out, shadows pooling in the corners, and the tapping grew louder, faster, a frantic little rhythm. I pushed open their door, poker raised. The room was dark, the curtains swaying slightly like they'd just been touched. The sound stopped. I flicked on the light, heart hammering, and saw it. Mom's vanity mirror, the big oval one with the carved wooden frame. It was fogged up, like someone had breathed on it, and scratched into the mist were 3 words, "Let me in." I caught my breath, a scream clawing up my throat, but I choked it down. I wiped the glass with my sleeve, smearing the words into nothing, and told myself I was losing it. A prank, a trick of the storm, anything but what it felt like. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed downstairs, lights blazing, poker in my lap, jumping at every creak. By morning, the rain had stopped, and the house felt almost normal again. I could have convinced myself it was all in my head, until I found the book. It was in the attic where I went looking for the source of the tapping sounds to explain the night before. I'd never been up there much. It was Dad's domain, full of old boxes and junk. But there it was, tucked behind a trunk, a thin, leather-bound thing with no title, the cover etched with symbols I didn't recognize, sharp and twisting like thorns. I opened it, hands trembling, and the pages were filled with handwritten scrawl, ink faded to a rusty brown, spells, rituals, warnings. One page was dog-eared, titled The Calling. It described a summoning, a way to invite something through a mirror. There were instructions, salt lines, candles, words to chant, and a sketch of a figure, tall and thin, with 2 long arms and eyes like black pits. I slammed it shut, feeling nauseous. My parents weren't into this stuff. Were they? Or had someone else left it here? The house had belonged to my grandparents before us, and they'd always been odd, whispering about keeping things balanced, locking doors that didn't need locking. I shoved the book back where I'd found it and tried to forget, but that night, it came back. The tapping started again, louder, angrier, rattling the windows in their frames. I checked and they were all locked, secure, but the sound kept moving, circling me. Then the lights flickered just once, and I heard it, a low, rasping whisper from upstairs. Let me in. Not a request, a demand. My legs locked, the poker slipping in my sweaty grip. The air turned cold, sharp, like I'd stepped into a freezer. I bolted to the kitchen, grabbed the salt from the pantry, some half-remembered instinct from that book, and poured it in a shaky line across the doorway. The whispering stopped, but I felt it watching me, a weight pressing against the back of my skull. I don't know how I made it to morning. I sat there, back against the fridge, salt scattered around me, listening to the house breathe. The storm had passed, but the silence was worse, too thick, too alive. When the sun finally crept through the curtains, I thought it was over. I was wrong. The mirror in the hall, the little one by the front door, was next. I passed it on my way to the bathroom and froze. My reflection was there, but it wasn't right. My eyes were too wide, my mouth stretched in a grin I wasn't making. I blinked and it blinked, but slower, deliberate. Then it raised a hand, my hand, and tapped the glass from the inside. Tap, tap, tap. I stumbled back, crashing into the wall, and when I looked again, it was just me, pale and shaking. I didn't wait for Mom and Dad to get home. I grabbed my bike and rode to my friend Jake's house, babbling about mirrors and voices until he thought I'd cracked. Maybe I had. When my parents returned, I didn't tell them. What could I say? The house went back to normal, mostly. No more tapping, no more whispers. But I never looked in that hall mirror again. I'd catch it out of the corner of my eye sometimes and swear it was watching. Years later, after Mom passed and Dad moved out, I went back to clear the place. The attic was still there, dustier, emptier, except for that book. It was right where I'd left it, symbols glaring up at me. I burned it in the backyard, watched the flames eat those pages, and told myself it was done. But sometimes when it rains, I hear it, soft, insistent, tapping at the edge of my mind. And I wonder if I ever really shut it out, or if it's still waiting, patient as death, for me to let it in.
Sitting in the dark during a power failure tonight, I'm reminded of once when I was 16. That weekend. I'll never shake the events loose from my mind. My parents had gone off on a trip with my aunt and uncle. I begged my way out of it, as my cousins could drive me nuts with their antics. They agreed to leave me alone with the responsibility of taking care of myself for a weekend. It was April, the air still sharp with spring chill, and I'd been thrilled at the prospect of 2 days to myself. Pizza, late-night movies, no one nagging me about homework. But looking back, I wonder if the house had been waiting for me to be alone, biding its time. Friday night started normal enough. I sprawled on the couch, the TV blaring an 80s horror movie I'd seen a dozen times. The windows were black mirrors reflecting the living room, and the moonless night was dark and eerie. I didn't mind. I liked the edge it gave the night. Around midnight, the movie ended, and I flicked the TV off, plunging the house into silence. That's when I first heard it. A low hissing, like static from a dead station, coming from the basement. I froze, ears straining. Our TV was definitely off. The sound wasn't coming from up here anyway. It was drifting up the stairs, faint but insistent. I told myself it was nothing, probably the wind or the furnace kicking on weird. Still, I grabbed the remote and turned the TV back on, letting the late-night infomercials drown it out. I fell asleep on the couch, the hissing fading into my dreams. Saturday morning, I woke down stiff, the TV still chattering about miracle mops. The house felt normal in the daylight, all bright and mundane. I laughed at myself for getting spooked and spent the day lazing around, texting friends, raiding the fridge. But as dusk crept in, that uneasy feeling came back. I couldn't shake the memory of that hissing. By 9 p.m., I was back on the couch, another horror movie, trying to ignore the shadows. But they seemed thicker tonight. Then the power flickered. The TV cut out for a second, came back, flickered again. I cursed under my breath. Old wiring, I figured. But when it went out a third time and stayed off, the silence hit me like a punch. No hum of the fridge, no distant traffic. Just nothing. Until it wasn't nothing anymore. That static sound slithered back, louder now, spilling up from the basement like a slow leak. I sat there, heart thudding, telling myself I was being stupid. It was probably a radio my dad left on, or pipes, or something. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and headed for the stairs. Each step creaked, the light shaking in my grip. The air got colder as I descended, and the hissing grew sharper, prickling my skin like static electricity. At the bottom, I stopped. The sound was coming from the storage room, the door ajar just a crack. I nudged it open, phone light slicing through the dark. The room looked normal. Boxes, totes, shelves with books and knickknacks. But the hissing was deafening now, buzzing in my teeth. My eyes landed on the old TV in the corner, a boxy relic we never used anymore. Its screen was black, unplugged, yet the noise seemed to pour from it. I stepped closer, goosebumps on my arms. The static shifted, almost like it was forming words, too garbled to catch. I reached out, don't ask me why, I just did, and pressed my hand against the screen. It was warm, pulsy faintly, and the hissing stopped dead. Silence rang in my ears, and for a second, I thought it was over. I yanked my hand back, stumbling as gray static filled the glass. No plug, no power, but there it was, hissing and crackling. Shapes flickered in the noise, blurry at first, then sharpening into something that made my stomach drop. A face, pale, eyeless, mouth stretched wide like it was screaming. It pressed against the inside of the screen, smearing the glass, and I swear it was looking at me. I bolted up the stairs, through the living room, out the front door into the night. I didn't stop running until I hit the gas station a mile away, panting and wild-eyed, babbling to the clerk about a break-in so he'd call the cops. They showed up, searched the house, found nothing. Power was still out, they said. Probably a blown fuse. The TV in the storage room was off, unplugged, cold to the touch. Everyone looked at me with a look that said, just a kid, scared to be alone. I didn't sleep that night. Stayed at a friend's place instead, lying awake, replaying it. When my parents got home Sunday, I told them about it, but I could tell they didn't really believe me, that their old TV tried to eat my soul. But I couldn't shake it. The way that face moved, like it knew me, like it wanted out. Years later, I'm still here, grown up, moved away. But sometimes, late at night, I'll catch a hint of static on the edge of hearing, a radio, a TV, even my phone. And I'm 16 again, standing in the basement. I've read about hauntings, about things trapped in objects, old occult stories of spirits bound to mirrors or boxes. Scrolling through my phone, the screen glitches. Just for a second, gray static flares, and I hear it, that hissing, low and hungry. I drop the phone, watch it skitter across the floor, screen dark again. Maybe it was a glitch, maybe I'm losing it. But as I reach to pick it up, a zap with that hiss. It was never the TV, it was free, and it has found me.
I was 16 when it happened. That weekend I'll never shake from my bones. My parents had left me alone, trusting me with the house while they went to some anniversary getaway. It was Friday night, April. I can't recall the exact date, but I know the air was thick with spring, heavy and damp, the kind that clings to your skin. The house was old and creaky, an older two-story home on the edge of town that my dad swore had character. To me, it just felt like a place that held its breath too long. I'd been fine at first. I had the TV blaring some old slasher flick, popcorn spilling over the couch, the kind of teenage freedom you dream about. The windows were dark, reflecting the glow of the screen back at me, and I didn't think much of it when the wind started rattling the panes. It was an old house. Noise was normal. But then the power flickered. Just once, a quick blink, and the TV snapped off. I cursed, fumbling for my phone when I heard it. A thud. Not loud, not dramatic, just a soft, deliberate thump from upstairs. I froze, straining to listen. The wind howled outside, but the house was still. Too still. I told myself it was nothing. A branch hitting the roof, maybe the cat we didn't have knocking something over in my imagination. I turned the flashlight app on for my phone, my hand shaking the beam, and climbed the stairs. Each step groaned under my weight, louder than ever before, like the house was warning me to turn back. At the top, the hallway stretched out, dim and endless. My room was at the far end, door cracked open just enough to spill a sliver of light and shadow onto the floor. The thud had come from there, I was sure of it now. I called out, "Hello?" Because that's what you do when you're scared and stupid. But my voice sounded thin, swallowed by the dark. There's no response. Nothing answered. I crept forward, the light from my phone sweeping the walls, catching the edges of framed photos, My parents smiling, me as a kid, all of us oblivious. The air felt colder up here, sharper, like stepping into a freezer. When I reached my door, I nudged it open with my foot, beam slicing through the room. My bed was unmade, clothes strewn across the floor, the usual mess. But something was off. The window was open. Not wide, just an inch, enough to let the night seep in. I hadn't left it like that. I knew I hadn't. I crossed the room, heart thudding, and yanked it shut, locking it tight. That's when I saw it. A smudge on the glass. Not a fingerprint, not quite. It was long, thin, like something had dragged itself down the pane from the outside. I stepped back, gasping, and that's when the second thud came, right behind me. I spun around, my phone light jerking wildly. Nothing, just my room, empty and silent. But the air felt wrong, heavy, like it was pressing down on me. I bolted downstairs, slamming my door shut behind me, and locked myself in the living room. The TV was still dead, the house dark except for the light from my phone. I tried calling my parents, but the signal dropped, even though I had 3 bars. The wind outside picked up, moaning through the leaves, and I swore I heard something else in it, a low whisper that wasn't the storm. I don't know how long I sat there, curled on the couch, clutching my phone like a lifeline. Minutes, maybe hours. The house creaked and settled, each sound twisting my nerves tighter. Then came the scratching, faint at first, like nails on wood, coming from the ceiling, the floor of my room. It wasn't rhythmic, not like an animal. It was slow, deliberate, like something testing the surface, feeling its way. I told myself it was the wind, a branch, anything but what my gut screamed it was. I shined the light at the ceiling, half expecting to see cracks forming, but it was normal. The scratching stopped, like my light caught something by surprise, and for a moment, I thought it was over. Then, the lights flickered back on. Relief hit me like a wave, until I saw the shadow. It stretched up the living room wall, tall, humanoid but wrong, its edges blurry, its head with horns. I whipped around. I heard something, but there was nothing behind me. The shadow didn't move with the light. It stayed, fixed, watching. My mouth went dry, words choking in my throat. I stumbled to the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and turned back. The shadow was gone. I should have run then, out into the night, neighbors be damned. But I was 16, stubborn, and terrified of looking weak, even to myself. I crept back upstairs, knife in one hand, phone in the other, every step a battle against the urge to flee. My bedroom door was still shut, but the air felt charged, electric. I pushed it open, and the smell hit me, something sour, like decay and wet earth. The room looked the same, but the window was open again. Wide this time, curtains fluttering. I hadn't heard it, hadn't felt the draft. I lunged to close it, and that's when I saw the book on my desk. It wasn't mine, a thin, leather-bound thing, edges frayed. No title on the spine. I hadn't seen it before, hadn't brought it in. My hands shook as I opened it. The pages yellowed and brittle, covered in symbols I couldn't read, sharp and jagged like they'd been scratched in with a claw. The lights flickered again and the scratching started, not from above this time, but from the walls, all around me, a chorus of nails dragging, clawing, closing in. I dropped the book, the knife on the bed, and ran, down the stairs, out the front door, into the rain-soaked night. I didn't stop until I reached the gas station 2 miles away, soaked and sobbing, babbling to the clerk about shadows and sounds. My parents came home the next day, found me at a friend's house where I'd crashed. They didn't believe me, not really. The power had been out all over town, they said, storm damage. My room was fine, no book, no smudges, window locked tight. They chalked it up to a scared kid and a wild imagination. But I know what I saw, what I felt. The house never felt right after that. I'd catch shadows in the corners, hear whispers in the wind, smell that sour decay in the air when I was alone. Years later, I found out the truth, or part of it. The old man who'd lived there before us had dabbled in things he shouldn't have, rituals and summoning things, stuff the town whispered about but never proved. He'd died in that house, alone, no one knew how. I think something stayed behind, something I woke up that weekend. I don't go back there anymore, but sometimes, in the dark, I still hear that scratching, and I wonder if it ever really let me go.
Hey there. I hope you're enjoying these stories as much as I'm enjoying getting these stories to you. And if you are, please subscribe. It allows you to know when a new story's out and allows me to get more subscribers. So please subscribe. Also share. Share this with your friends. Share it on media. Just a post. Well, that'd be great. Please subscribe. Please share.